But would also love to hear from you, Aaliyah, in terms of the whole how you framed and how you got
Mhm.
that case and what was successful.
Yeah, so I think, the accountability is definitely important. I would say another aspect of it that our leaders always looking for is data.
Hmm.
And it was really hard to get data out of our old tool, and the data only included my part of the team. And so then the other side of the team who was trying to say we would do these year-end reports every year for our key major clients, and we would have to do a lot of manual crunching of data that took an incredible amount of time. And that alone is something that I used to help make a case that we could do this much faster if we had a tool that was all of us in the same place and we could pull those reports and combine it and share it with people. And also, you could go in and look at it at a dashboard at any time and kind of have a sense for where things are. All of those things help to make a case because our vice chancellor is also reporting out to the chancellor, and then we also report to the system. So there's all these requests for data in different ways. So I think that one was really important. It's something that they're on the hot seat for. They have to deliver. And so if we can make that easier and more reliable, that was important as well. But I think we've had a conversation as we're growing as an institution, as we're professionalizing a lot of the things that are happening within the university. That means more and more projects, more and more work. We're constantly at our threshold and capacity. And so that's been another part of the conversation as well, is how do we make a case for that? How do we prove that we're at capacity? How do we even know? Like, how do we track that?
Yeah, I think one of the important things too that you mentioned there is scale too. Things that work on like a small team that only has small projects like break down completely once you start growing and moving on to bigger teams and bigger projects. And ideally you want to set yourself up to scale initially, but like that never happens. Let's just be
Right.
honest. You run into the problem and then you're like, okay, I need a solution. This wasn't built to scale. How do I set myself up for success now in the future?
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that scale is going to provide some kind of outcome, right, Kendall? I mean, if we think in terms of how leaders think, like they're thinking in terms of the big picture, the outcome, like what is the result of this going to do for me? And you talked about a little bit, Aaliyah, in terms of like capacity and resources. I mean, I've had to, in many cases, go back to leadership and say, you know what, we just can't meet all of these requests that we're getting. We need to hire more people. And what's the first question that you're going to get from your leader is, well, show me how many hours everybody is working and show me how many projects are being requested. And then let's take a look at what we're getting from a return, right? The outcome is the return on that investment. So in order to invest in a team, you have to be able to prove some kind of an outcome. So I think those are all very important points that were made. Um, and I think the other thing that we want to go into a little bit too is, alignment around the problem, and it has to make sense. And I talked about it a couple of slides ago about how the work should run and how the process looks. And when you have this alignment with your leadership, then it a lot of times makes sense to kind of step back and look at how that work should actually run. And I think in your case, Aaliyah, it works where you've already, had that somewhat of a decision made before you had like the fine details of a process figured out, but you still had a process, right?
Mhm.
Some teams, some organizations will, look at a process first and then look at a tool like a Workzone to figure out, well, how can this then meet some of those criteria of our process? So, it works a couple of different ways.